Hi, welcome to Virtual CB1A. This is Miss Rena, and for today's video discussion, we are going to focus on example 3.14 of double angle formulas. This is the second example given in our reference book. We have to prove that sine 4z is equal to 4 tangent z times 1 minus tangent squared z all over 1 plus tangent squared z squared. I tried practicing solving this identity earlier, and I had a lot of problems when it comes to the variable z. So, z kasi, pag nagsusulat ako ng 2, kamukha siya ng 2. And there are some instances wherein hindi power si 2. Minsan, constant din siya. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng 2z. Minsan, ayan, ganyan ako magsulat ng 2z. Mahirap i-distinguish yung difference nilang dalawa. Ayan. Dito nilagyan ko lang siya ng guhit doon sa gitna. Pero most of the time, nakakalimutan ko. So, nalilito ko. Instead of using z as our variable here, let's change this into theta. And then, dun sa dulo, pag napalabas na natin that sine 4 theta is equal to 4 tangent theta times 1 minus tangent squared theta over 1 plus tangent squared theta squared ay equal talaga. Saka na lang natin ulit gamitin yung variable na z. So, since variable lang naman sila, mga markers lang sila for the unknown, pwede natin gamitin kahit na anong gusto natin na letter, symbol, or Greek letter. Free naman tayo doon. So, i-clarify lang natin from this point forward that theta will stand for z. Okay? Now, let's start with our solution. So, for here, sine 4 theta is equal to 4 tangent theta times 1 minus tangent squared theta over 1 plus tangent squared theta squared. Nasanay tayo from the previous examples that the left-hand side will be the one to be manipulated, right? Lagi natin binabago ay si left-hand side. Pero sabi ko nga sa inyo, analyze your problem and then determine kung alin yung side na mas madaling i-manipulate papunta dun sa kabila. Mas madaling gawa ng solution to make the equation equal. In this case, if we are going to focus on the left-hand side, sine 4 theta, medyo mahirap siyang ilagay as tangent theta. Kasi ang relationship ni sine at ni tangent will be tangent theta is equal to sine theta over cosine theta. We will have, ito yung pinakang common sa lahat ng identities na involve si tangent at saka si sine. For here, we have to make use of the cosine function, which is not present in the left-hand side, just to get a tangent function. Pero kung si tangent function, yung itatransform natin into sine theta over cosine theta, madali natin siyang mailalagay into the form sine 4 theta. So instead of changing the left-hand side, we are now going to focus on the right-hand side and try our hardest to transform it to sine 4 theta. Okay? So, let's start. So, dito, kasasabi lang natin kanina, tangent theta is equal to sine theta over cosine theta, right? So, we can write this as 4 sine theta over cosine theta. Yan yung dalawa na equal. Ito, at saka ito. Yan, equal sila. Now, let's move to the ones inside the parentheses. So, inside the parentheses, we have 1 minus tangent squared theta. So, kung ito ay tangent theta is equal to sine theta over cosine theta, if we put here a squaring function, tangent squared theta, its equivalent will be sine squared theta cosine squared theta. Okay? So, this can be written as sine squared theta over cosine squared theta. Nasusundan? Hopefully nasusundan. Now, let's go to the denominator. This is um, quite different kasi si tangent squared theta, hindi na natin siya ita-transform into sine squared theta, cosine squared theta. Instead, we will make use of the identity that we have discussed on our earlier lessons. And that is the identity 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. Ayan, nilagay ko na siya dito sa side so you can easily find it. So, ito, 1 plus tangent squared theta is equal to secant squared theta. So, let's write down here, secant squared theta squared na lang. Now, how can we use this secant squared theta squared function in solving this identity? Eh, wala nga tayong secant. Dapat matitira na lang sine. So, how can we get rid of the secant function? Don't forget that the secant function is the reciprocal of cosine function. So, if we have secant squared theta, we actually have the reciprocal 1 over cosine squared theta. Reciprocal of the cosine squared function. Okay? Okay. I think nasusundan naman. Madali pa naman siya at this point. Now, let's simplify the numerator. We have 4 sine theta over cosine theta times. Add natin yung dalawang terms inside the parenthesis. So, meron tong denominator na 1 sa baba. 1 times cosine squared theta is cosine squared theta. Now, let's perform cross multiplication. 1 times cosine squared theta is cosine squared theta. And then 1 times negative sine squared theta is minus sine squared theta. Okay? Okay. For the denominator, let's substitute 1 over cosine squared theta for secant squared theta. Tapos may square tayo dito. Now, mag-simplify tayo ulit. Simultaneous na yung magiging solution natin, ha? We have 4 sine theta over cosine theta times. Ano yung cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta? If you are going to look at our identities, we have cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta equal to cosine 2 theta. So here, we will just input cosine 2 theta, ito siya, over cosine squared theta. And we will divide our expression. So, ano yung ipang-divide natin sa kanya? So, yung reciprocal nitong 1 over cosine squared theta. Ano ang reciprocal ng 1 over 1 cosine squared theta squared? Of course, 1 over the reciprocal ay di magiging cosine squared theta squared na lang siya. Okay? So, this is going to be times cosine squared theta na lang squared. Instead of this one. Yan, napasimple na natin siya. Ayusin ko lang yung parenthesis natin dito. Now, let's proceed with the solution. Meron tayo ditong denominator na cosine theta, cosine squared theta, at saka cosine squared theta squared for the numerator. For the denominator, if we are going to divide, cosine squared theta squared by cosine squared theta. So, matatanggal na yung squaring function natin dito. So, tanggal na sila lahat. May eliminate na natin yung denominator ng cosine 2 theta. We still have cosine theta here. Cosine squared theta means that we have to multiply cosine theta by itself 2 times. So, si cosine theta here will again be canceled out. Bawasan din natin yung power ng isa. Nasusundan ba? Okay. Pasimplihin ko to ha. We have cosine squared theta squared. Dito siya nanggaling. Bakit natin siya kinancel out? If you are going to divide it by cosine squared theta, yung nandito, ilan yung total na cosine squared theta dito? Meron tayong 4. Cosine squared theta, cosine theta times cosine theta. Tapos, dalawang beses mo ulit siya, tapos i-multiply mo ulit siya sa sarili niya. So, dalawang beses ulit times cosine theta. Hindi siya kasya. Naku, paano ko ba ito i-move? Teka lang hanap ako ng mas malaking space. Naintindihan na naman to, di ba? Yung second and cosine. So, burahin ko na siya so we can make space for the explanation for this part. Kasi sino-shortcut ko siya eh. I'm afraid na hindi lahat makakasunod. This is cosine theta. Okay. So, kung isusulat natin to ng mahaba, pwede mo siya isulat as 4 sine theta, and then kasunod niya si cosine 2 theta. Tapos ito, i-expand natin. Ang expansion nito will be cosine squared theta times cosine squared theta. Si cosine squared theta, pwede mo pa siya i-expand ulit. So, instead of writing cosine squared theta, pwede mo siyang isulat as cosine theta times cosine theta times cosine theta times cosine theta. Again, cosine squared theta squared is equal to cosine squared theta times cosine squared theta, which is equal to cosine theta, cosine theta. Ito yon. Yan. Equal sila sa isa't isa. May isa pa tayo dito. Cosine squared theta. Paulit dito sa tabi. So, this is, again, cosine theta, cosine theta. So, 4 sila. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dito sa baba, meron tayo cosine theta. Tapos may cosine squared theta tayo dito. Ibig sabihin, may dalawa pang cosine theta. Okay? So, nasusundan? Hopefully, nasusundan. Now, you can actually skip this step kung familiar na talaga tayo sa identities at wala naman tayong vina-violate sa solution. So, ito, pwede nyo itong skip. Meron tayo 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So, isang cosine na lang yung matitira. Pwede idiretso nyo na siya as 4 sine theta cosine squared theta. Tapos yung sa dulo, we have cosine theta. Wala na tayong denominator. Ang denominator na lang niya is 1. Pagka denominator ay 1, hindi na natin siya sinusulat. Again, This part here is skippable. Hindi ko kailangan makita to sa solution nyo. I only showed this to you, the expansion, so that you will understand how we came up with 4 sine theta, cosine squared theta, cosine theta. Okay? Okay. Since wala na tayong space, tayo ay mag-adjust. Isunod natin yung property that 4 can be broken down into 2. We have 2 times 2. And then, ano yung merong sine theta and cosine theta na may factor din ng 2? If you are going to look at our double angle formulas, meron tayong ganito. Sine 2 theta is equal to 2 sine theta cosine theta. So, if we write sine theta, cosine theta beside each other, masyadong lumiit tong isa. Nagmukha siyang squared. This is cosine 2 theta. And then sa dulo is cosine 2 theta. This whole expression here, 2 sine theta cosine theta, can be written as sine 2 theta. Okay? So we have here 2. Tapos ito, papalitan na natin ito, sine 2 theta. 2 sine 2 theta cosine 2 theta. Okay? Ayan. So, malapit na tayo sa sine 4 theta. Actually, dun sa reference natin, para siyang minagic, di ba? Bigla na lang siya naging sine 4 theta. But actually, this is the inverse or the backward solution of our sum of angle formulas. So, paano siya naging backward solution? We know that here we have 2 sine theta plus cosine 2 theta, 'di ba? Meron tayong idea that sine theta plus theta is equal to sine 2 theta. Tama? So, ito yung idea na gagamitin natin to make our equation be equal to sine 4 theta. So, let me show it to you. Mag-work tayo backwards. So, magiging clear kung paano siya ginagawa. We have here sine 4 theta. If we have sine 4 theta here, that means we will be dealing with sine 2 theta plus sine 2 theta. Tama? Ay, teka. Parang may mali. Sine 2 theta plus 2 theta. Yan. Ito yon. So, kung meron kang ganito, we can write it as sin cos cosine sin 2 theta cos 2 theta plus cos theta cos 2 theta. Hindi na siya kasya. Sin 2 theta. Yan, mukha na ba siyang familiar? Yes, mukha na siyang familiar, di ba? Kasi, magkakaroon ka ng sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, plus, pwede mo tong pagbaligtarin, una si sin 2 theta, since multiplication is commutative. So, this is sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta. Now, medyo looking familiar na, no? Kasi from here, ito, if we follow the idea that we have 2 sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, dalawang beses nito, so we can write it as 2 sin theta, cosine 2 theta, which is then equal to sin 4 theta. Okay? Ayan, baka medyo nalilito pa ulit. Ito po, sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, para lang tong algebra. If you have x is equal to sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, ibig sabihin dito, meron kang x plus x, di ba? Which is equal to 2x. Ano ang 2x? 2, ito, substitute mo ito, sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta for x, we have 2 sin theta, cosine 2 theta. So, ito po, itong buong expression na to, 2 sin theta, cosine 2 theta, is actually equal to sin 4 theta by working backward. So, baliktarin na ulit natin yung solution kasi nakita nyo na kung paano siya nangyari. Shinortcut kasi dun sa book, nakakainis. Kailangan tuloy natin siya himayin. So, this is sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, plus sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, which is equal to sin 4, sin 2 theta plus 2 theta, which is equal to sin 4 theta. Okay? So, another tip, pagka hindi nyo nakita yung solution, halimbawa, naging stagnant na kayo at this part. Kasi ang hirap na makita kung paano mo siya gagawing sin 4 theta at this part, di ba? Dito sa 2 sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta. My tip is work backward. Given ka naman with the value that you can prove. And sabi ko nga, either way naman, as long as magiging equal sila, no matter which side of the equation you are focusing on, as long as they will yield you the same value for each side, okay lang yon. So, instead na pilit ka ng pilit na from 2 sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, pupunta ka sa sin 4 theta, eh hindi mo siya talaga mapiga. Pwedeng from sin 4 theta, mag-work backward ka na until you meet this outline, hanggang mapunta ka dun sa outline kung saan ka naging stagnant. And then from there, magkakaroon ka ng idea kung paano mo siya palalabasin as sin 4 theta. Katulad ng ginawa natin dito. Stagnant na tayo sa 2 sin 2 theta, cosine 2 theta. Medyo malabo na yung solution. Hindi na natin siya mahanap. Ang ginawa ko, nag-focus na ako dun sa right-hand side, dun sa hindi natin ginagalaw kanina, which is sin 4 theta. From sin 4 theta, nag-work backward ako until I came up with the outline where we stopped. Okay? So, yun yung isang technique for proving. As long as you will be able to make the left and the right-hand side equal to one another, good yun. And As long as you are not violating any rules in algebra or in any branch of mathematics, good yun. Okay? Okay, so this is the end of double angle formulas. Ito na yung last na example natin na i-discuss doon. Hindi ko lang siya matiis na hindi ipakita kasi nga ang pangit no nung presentation ng aklat. Hindi siya malinaw. So thank you for listening, and after this we are going to discuss half angle formula naman. Thank you and good luck on your activities. I am looking forward to checking your activities pag kompleto na. Thank you and see you next time. Bye!